Some years ago, one of our students was going through these Zen stories, histories or stories of Zen masters. And one of his comments at the end was very interesting. What is the purpose of these stories? Why are you sharing this? This is boring. Where is the gnosis here? That moment we realized there could be some more meditation done. Friends, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We continue in our meditation series, and we are at the heights of lesson number 6. Our story tonight is titled The Zen Master Kao Feng. Now, as we go into this material, we do have some objectives with sharing the story of Kao Feng. The first thing is that we would like to share the story of the master so that you can perceive and you can perceive and that you can learn from the experience, so that you can learn about the internal struggle that these masters face and how is it that they can possibly overcome them. The second thing that we would like to do today is introduce you to the concept of a koan and bring about the topic of the mantra Wu. Koans are enigmatic phrase. They are, when translated literally from Chinese, it is a critical phrase. It is a statement that when brought into the intellect, it creates such a conflict in the battle of antithesis that it forces the intellect to stop. The koan itself, when you submerge yourself in it, leads the mind to a complete stop. We must be watchful because bringing a koan into meditation, if we are not paying close attention to those fleeting thoughts that are flowing through the screen of the mind, the confusion of the koan is going to force the mind to get scared and look for something else, whether it is a shape or a color or an idea or a concept that would be somehow related to the koan, and take that as an exit so that continuing its non-stop comparison, suddenly you will find yourself out there in the mental land realizing, what have I been doing in my mind in the last 15 or 20 minutes? So today we will speak about Master Kao Feng. We have already spoken a little bit about koan, and we're going to explain the mantra Wu. But let's start with the story of Kao Feng. This Chinese Zen master, he entered the priesthood by the time that he was 15 years of age, and he was ordained at the age of 20 at the Xingzhou monastery. Kao Feng knew deep in his heart that all human beings were suffering, that to this or that degree, all human beings were experiencing a condition of feeling miserable, that they were sleepwalking automatons. And he decided that on his efforts, his work was going to be dedicated into awakening the consciousness as fast as he possibly could by applying the science of meditation. So he started carrying out his first works under the intelligent direction of Master Tuang Xiao. And Master Tuang Xiao taught him how to work with a koan. In Chinese, koan is stated Hua Tou. So Tuang Xiao educated Kao Feng on the Hua Tou, in this mysterious phrase, in this critical phrase that in the Chang Buddhism is an inherent part of the practice. It invites you as a student, as a seeker of the wisdom and the light, to investigate, but to investigate something that comes across as a nonsensical question, as something that has no meaning, as something that is almost impossible to decipher. And some of those koans, as an example, would be, what is it? Another koan could be, who repeats the name of the Buddha? And in this case, Master Tuang Xiao, as he introduces Kao Feng into the concept of the Hua Tou, he gives them the mysterious phrase, where was I before birth? And where will I be after death? As Kao Feng receives this wisdom, he becomes consternated. Inside of him, there was a deep, profound internal struggle, and that is because the experience of that which is real is impossible without the intervention of the essence. The experience of that which is real exceeds the ability of any of the sensors of our physical body, of any of the capabilities of the five senses of the human machine. So we must rely on going deep into that aspect of the being that you and I and each one of us have effectively incarnated, which is the Buddhata. Kao Feng dealt at the moment with conflicting opinions. As he received that, he was deep into the battle of the opposites and the conflicting ideas that were coming into his mind. And the story says that Kao Feng cried endlessly. Some people even say that his tears were tears of blood because he was longing to unbottle, to just allow for the tearing of the bag, to allow that consciousness to fully emancipate. He wanted to escape the mental dualism, but with this Hua Tou, he failed. In that terrible anguish, he walked away from that particular master, and he sought out Master Sui Ying. And Master Sui Ying, seeing him suffering, deep inside he felt moved by the pain of Kao Feng. And at that moment, he taught the powerful mantra Wu. But he said, I want daily reports on your work. I want daily reports on your progress. This mantra Wu, Samael tells us, when it is chanted mentally, it is a silent mantra. It is chanted with a double U. This does not mean oo, it means Wu. But in our mind, we are not singing Wu. No. The mantra Wu is the sound of the howling wind through the forest. The mantra Wu is the sound of the winds of the hurricane against the waves of the sea. So when we hear it with the hearing ability of our mind, the mantra will sound something like with every exhalation, you can hear that mantra deep within your mind. And the practice of this mantra leads the mind to become absolutely still. As Samael states, in a deep and frightening silence, both inside and outside. So Master Sui Ying taught Kao Feng how to meditate with the sacred mantra Wu. And as he was educating Kao Feng in so many other teachings, Sui Ying was so effective explaining his teachings. He was so descriptive with everything that he was giving Kao Feng that Kao Feng became negligent. He allowed to be moved by laziness because he had no need to go into the meditative state to extract the wisdom from what he was being taught. And so, Master Sui Ying, even though he was so kind, even though he was so giving and to a degree so sweet, he knew that he had to become severe with his student. And one day, Kao Feng, in one of these states of perhaps not caring much, Kao Feng enters Sui Ying's room. And as he walks into the room, Sui Ying tells them, "Who has brought this corpse in your name?" He was not even done saying that when he stood up and he turned around and he kicked him out of his room. This practice of inner meditation, as you and I, as we sit down and we meditate, slowly but surely, the exercise of meditation starts creating a change. We have learned that for the exercise of meditation, we must be half awake and half asleep. And the reason for that is because we need to enable the ethereal body to make the necessary changes within the physicality itself. And those changes that the ethereal body will do will happen at the level of the brain. Neural networks would reconfigure themselves. There would be some myelination that will take place within those neurons that will make the exercise of meditation every time so much more conducive. It would make us so much more receptive. Particularly because at the level of the brain, the pineal gland has a series of amorphous crystals. And these crystals have a piezoelectric property. If you're not familiar with piezoelectric means that when you move it, when you make it vibrate, it generates an electric flow. And we know that wherever there is an electric flow, there is a magnetic field. So we can make use of mantras to enable those vibrations of those crystals within the pineal gland, and the vibration itself would increase its magnetic capability. That is super useful because the pineal gland as well operates as an antenna. And so now we are increasing its magnetic ability, operating as an antenna. It allows us then to perceive of those images that the eyes of the flesh can just not perceive. Knowing this, seeking to quiet the mind with the mantra Wu, with the work of the koan, as we put these things into practice, well, we gradually start provoking the awakening of the consciousness, which is the same as the awakening of the Tathagata, the Buddhata. But as neophytes, as new students, as apprentices in this work of meditation, Well, sometimes we start reacting to those internal representations that come to the mind. And depending on the image, we will react in a different way. Sometimes we will start by saying, is this a dream? Am I caught in the dream state? But later on, as we start becoming more acquainted with these images, as we start deciphering the symbols, apprehending the wisdom that comes directly from the being, soon enough, we will come to see that while the body is meditating, we are completely outside of our physical body, unfolded consciously in the astral plane. Sui Yang stands. He turns around, and as he spins, he kicks Kao Feng, and he kicks him out of the room. So Kao Feng continues with his work. And on some specific day, he was out of his body, unfolded in the astral plane. While his body was resting and snoring in bed, he then remembered with tremendous clarity that Hua Tou, that koan that says, all things are reducible to one. But to what is the one reducible? While unfolded in the astral plane, the Chinese traditions, as they carry this teaching to this day, they say that at that moment his mind was tremendously confused. He was so confused and he was so disoriented with this koan that he could not even tell the difference between north and south and east and west. And coming back into his body, he carries this profound consternation. And on the 6th day of being in that deep, unhappy state of mind, it so happens that when he was muttering with devotion the prayers that he was given in that meditation lumisol, he raised his head, and as he looked up, he saw with his faculty of clairvoyance those last 2 mysterious sentences from a poem that was written by a patriarch of name Fayen. Oh, it is you, the fellow I have known all the time, who goes and returns in the 30,000 days of 100 years. Hearing that, seeing that, Kao Feng immediately went to work with that previous koan that Sui Yin had given him. Who has brought this corpse in your name? That koan was etched, was chiseled in his mind in such a way that it was impossible for him to forget it. And so, when later on Kao Feng was asked, can you master yourself in the daytime? He looks at the master and he says, yes, I can. And the master then said, can you master yourself while dreaming? And his answer again, yes, I can. And the master brings his arms close to his chest and says, where in the dreamless sleep is the master? Kao Feng could not find an answer to that question. And because he just couldn't answer, he started re-experiencing once again all of those intimate sufferings that were afflicting the bottom of his soul. And so the master, in his infinite compassion, full of kindness, told him, from this moment on, I don't want you to study Buddhism. I don't want you to study the Dharma. I don't want you to study anything old. I don't want you to study anything new. I just want you to eat when you're hungry. I want you to go to bed when you're tired. And as soon as you wake up, alert your mind and ask yourself, who is the master of this awakening? And where does his body rest? And where does his life lead? Kao Feng receives this wisdom because he was such a man full of willpower. That willpower that comes not from the desires of the ego, but the willpower that emanates directly from that sphere of defect, from that sphere, from the soul of our being, from the human soul of our being. Kao Feng decided with firmness that he would somehow understand this, even if, as he tried as hard as he could, he would come across as an idiot to anyone who saw him. And even if this happened every day for the rest of his days, for the rest of his life. And so 5 years of very intense work went by. And one day when Kao Feng was working, on this point in the middle of one of his dreams, there was a monk sleeping next to him. And the monk unconsciously pushed his pillow, and the pillow falls on the ground. And the sound that it makes is that of a death thud. Thud. That was enough to make a tremendous impact, because at that very same instant, all of the questions, all of the problems that Kao Feng was experiencing, all of them disappeared. All of his doubts went away, and he felt a tremendous joy inside, as if he had managed to just escape a big trap, as if he had been able just to escape or elude some kind of jail or prison. And suddenly, all of the mysterious phrases of the masters and the Buddhas, and all of the many problems of the past, of the present, and the future, all of them became clear to him. And from that moment on, and not before, Kao Feng was enlightened. Samael Aumveor tells us that there are two types of illumination, two types of enlightenment that we can experience. The first one is called the enlightenment of the dead waters. The enlightenment of dead waters happens in the state of the anoya. That is a state of auto-consciousness. But here in the state of the anoya, in this enlightenment of dead waters, those who are experiencing and living that type of enlightenment, they're still carrying attachments. There is a second type of awakening, of enlightenment, that is called the illumination of the great life. And this is the state of nous. This is the state of boundless illumination. Nous is a state of objective consciousness. And this state transcends that which is the Buddhata. Because this second type of enlightenment has nothing to do with the essence that exists in you, exists in me. This enlightenment is the direct experience of the innermost. And somehow tells us the reason for being of the being is the being itself. It is that moment of utmost discovery and awakening. It is possible that at this level of study you have already heard many, many times that this existence in which we live, exist, and we carry our personality and our consciousness and our being, that this is all an illusion. And that is referred to as Maya. But let's remember that Maya is not a hallucination. Maya is not a mirage. What Maya is indicating is the profound impermanence of everything that surrounds us. And we know that if things are impermanent and constantly changing, then as a consequence, they must not be that. As a consequence, they are not quote unquote real. But we have also learned, based on the divine paradox, that even though we know that we exist in a world of illusion, even though we know that these things are constantly changing, that everything is here governed by impermanence, we must treat these things as if they were real, so that we can learn to embrace this experience in this realm of the substance. But treat them as if they were real without identification, without fascinating, so that we do not remain caught in the sleep of consciousness. Because the only one real thing that is out there is Brahma. It is the Father of our Father. Beyond the being, our innermost, our spirit, beyond that, our real being, that Father, ancient of days, that exists within us in secret. That Brahma, that is the infinite spiritual space. And that infinite spiritual space does not exist on its own, but exists within the eternal feminine that is that manifestation of our Divine Mother, Prakriti. That infinite spiritual space within which the eternal feminine and the sacred monad both exist, that is what is real. Everything else is just impermanent. And that is where we are seeking to lose ourselves, to expand indefinitely. Because at the end of the day, we must expand, lose ourselves in something. Lamentably, there are many people who will get lost within the tritocosmos, which are the inferior spheres of the tree of life. In that third order of worlds, where what we see, the catabolic forces of nature, doing the work that we are meant to be doing here, now. Samael says, we, the Gnostics, we prefer to get lost in Brahma. And through the koan, the mantra Wu, the exercise of meditation, we can start preventing the mental content, those mental forms that are called chitta, from acquiring various forms, from becoming all of those different forms. Those forms are called vrittis. More so when we are in the practice, in the exercise of inner meditation. When the mind stops projecting, when that lake of the mind calms down and becomes crystalline, the illusion that is produced by those waves of opposites, all of that illusion stops. The bag is torn, the consciousness emancipates and escapes and experiences the illuminating void. There's a Buddhist teaching that says form does not differ from the void, and neither the void differs of form. Form is the void, and the void is the form. And if that is not a koan, then that is just a very complicated statement. Let's go into our practice. We will invite you to assume a very comfortable posture. We're going to relax our body, and we will focus on observing our thoughts, contemplating them just like the director contemplates the play on the stage, and not contemplating the thoughts as the actor that is caught in the drama. We will contemplate those thoughts, and we will comprehend and discard them by simply embracing that exercise of synthesis. And we will bring a koan. What was your first face? Who repeats the name of the Buddha? What is it? And with whatever koan we use, we will allow for that mantra wu to incessantly resonate within the depth of the mind. And by the time that we're done with this practice, we will ring one of our singing bowls just to help you come back, and we can bring our practice to an end. So let's go ahead and let's take advantage of this moment and sit comfortably. Your feet can be flat on the floor, or you can simply be in the lotus posture. You could also find yourself in the posture of a corpse, just resting comfortably on your back. And if you're on your back, I will encourage you to spread your legs slightly and spread your arms side to side so that you can assume the shape of a 5-pointed star. Let's take a deep breath in 1, 2, and close our eyes. 1, 2. And let's materialize the flaming star around us. We can do that with the mantra Klim Krishnaya. Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopihana Vaya Vaya Swaha. Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopihana Vaya Vaya Swaha. Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopihana Vaya Vaya Swaha. Divine Father, we're here humbly at your presence, infinitely grateful for these teachings that we receive from all of these great masters. We ask of you with our heart and our soul that you bring our most recent state of relaxation into our body. We take a deep breath in 1, 2. And with every exhalation, we allow any tension, any stress, any discomfort to simply dissolve away from these bodies. And because we're observant, we immediately perceive the gentle relaxation that starts inundating the body. And with it, that gentle vibration of relaxation that permeates through every particle, every tissue, every muscle, every organ. and we will contemplate our thoughts. And because the mind would like to play games with its constant comparisons, we will repeat incessantly the enigmatic phrase, the koan, where in dreamless sleep is the master. And we allow that koan to float within the realm of the mind. And we will chant silently the mantra Wu. Let's go ahead and take a deep breath in. 1, 2. 1, 2. And let's come back. And so, my friends, this has been the story of the Zen Master Kao Feng. Are there any questions?
Hey, Rick, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, I was just wondering so we're doing the practice and a thought comes up. Let's just say I'm supposed to be doing this, and then I meet it with the antithesis of that. I'm not supposed to be doing this. When I get to the synthesis, you mentioned the koan, where in dreamless sleep is the master. Am I responding to that thesis and antithesis with the koan and then continuing with the mantra from there?
That is a really good question. And the times that we have put it into practice, exactly as you stated, it has worked wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Very well. So, friends, we are always very grateful for the time that you spend here with us. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. May all beings be happy.